This is one of the first things that I ever built for JBV Creative. Let's turn it on and see if it still works. Let's try that again. Originally, the plan was to just scale this thing up so I could be using these 30mm balls instead of the 6mm balls. But from the comments on my ping pong sculpture video, I know how many people would be telling me to turn this thing into a clock. So I decided to get ahead of the game and start designing this to be a clock from the get-go. These new balls are 5 times larger than the old balls. So when we scale this thing up, it's gonna be... Oh man, it's gonna be a lot bigger than I expected. First things first, let's build a really big base. This is a classic example of underestimating a project, but honestly, if I was picturing this size from the get-go, I don't know if I would have started this thing, so ignorance is bliss. All right, now that we have a base, we need to figure out a way to actually tell the time with these balls. I think I have something in mind. This is our clock face. So every minute, a ball will get dropped onto this track. 5 minutes, 9 minutes, and then every 10th minute, this will get emptied and a ball will get dropped onto this track right here. So this would be 12:10. So now it's 12:59. These 2 tracks will get emptied. And then a ball gets dropped onto this track. And now it's 1 o'clock. Of course, we're trying to build a ball roller coaster clock, not a ball dumper clock. So next thing we need is a track for the balls to roller coast on. So let's go make that. But before we do, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Elegoo for sponsoring today's video and making this project possible. This is a Neptune Max 4 and it is an absolute beast with a build volume of 420 by 420 by 480. It's got all the things that you would expect from a 3D printer nowadays, a flexible build sheet, automatic leveling, a high temperature direct drive extruder that can deal with all kinds of material. But the thing that I'm most excited about is that this printer is running on Clipper, which means that it is fast. When you're printing these massive parts, speed is incredibly important because it allows you to iterate faster and test your designs way more quickly. On a project like this, the scale is so big that I had to break up the entire thing into a bunch of smaller pieces. And the speed of this printer has allowed me to go from the design phase to the testing phase so much more quickly. And of course, the print quality is perfect. If you're interested in learning more about the Elegoo Neptune 4 Max, check the link in the description below. All right, let's get back to playing the world's most cursed game of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Cursed because in the game, you just decide how you want your roller coaster to look, and the game takes care of the rest. So I'm thinking we'll come off the drop, we're gonna go down and go around a curve, and then we'll do another drop and we'll put a loop there. Actually, you know what? No. Let's put the loop here instead, and then we're gonna come up and we'll do a little bit of a helix, and then we're gonna finish back at the start. And then you just hit run, and the roller coaster runs. Of course, in real life, things are so much more complicated. You have to design the track piece by piece. That takes about a month. Then you gotta figure out how you're gonna support the whole thing. That's another 2 weeks of work. And then you have to figure out how you're actually gonna build the thing. And that brings us here. Some of the track segments were printed directly on their side. Some were printed flat, and then some had a combination of flat with slope. Seems to work. But generally speaking, they use these pins to connect to one another and some sort of screw. Then once they're connected, they screw directly into the base. Okay, the first official track piece is going in. Yes! I've been staring at this thing on the computer screen for like 6 weeks now. And finally, it's coming together and it works. Let's keep going. Crazy to see the scale of this thing, because when it's on a computer screen, really you can't get an idea for how big it's gonna be. So the track is basically done, although we have 2 more things we need to do. The first is the loop. So I could have printed the loop vertically, but it would have required a bunch of support, and there would be steps in the track that wouldn't give it a smooth motion. I could have printed it on its side, but again, it would have required a bunch of support, and there would also be steps, but this time sideways. So instead I decided to print the loop flat on one plane, and now I'm going to use the heat gun to soften it so I can form it into a perfect continuous loop. Okay, that actually went really well. A couple ripples on the back, but otherwise I think it's going to work quite nicely. So next up, we're basically doing the same thing for the helix, but on a different plane. All right, the helix is done. So that means that we can do what I've been waiting for 6 weeks to finally do, and that is the first official track test. Ready? I honestly I can't believe that worked. The track works. So that means that next up, we need a way to get the ball from the bottom back up to the top. It's okay. I have a fix for that. So let's make the mechanism. We'll worry about that later. For the lifting mechanism, I wanted to stay true to the original design with the 2 arms working together to lift the ball up to the top of the track. So I fired up MotionGen, my favorite mechanical sketching app, and I got to work trying to optimize this linkage for the new scale. Using MotionGen, I was able to make quick adjustments to the lengths of each of the links in the mechanism and see how that affects the output motions at the end of the links. After playing around for a bit, I ended up with this configuration, and you can see the top of this path intersects with the bottom of this path, and that would be the spot that the arms pass the ball between the 2 of them. I was then able to take that into SolidWorks and start designing a mechanism that I could actually build. Mechanism is done. It's a little bit heavier than I was expecting, which in hindsight makes a lot of sense. This is really thick acrylic. So I've just added a bungee cord to this end to counterbalance it, and it actually seems to help. So let's see if we can pass a ball from one hand to the other. Oh yeah, no problem at all. All right, let's install it. The track and the mechanism is working. Now we have to turn this thing into a clock. So to do that, we need a couple more things. The first is we need a way to select one of these tracks based on the tens, the minutes, or the hours. I decided to use these 2 pivoting track segments that are connected from behind to these 2 levers. I then added a cam wheel, which will be rotating once every hour. At the top of the hour, both track segments will be down, so the ball can travel to the top hours track. As the cam rotates, it will lift the minutes track and the ball will drop into the lowest minute track segment. Every 10 minutes, the minute track will drop and the 10 selector will lift, so the ball could end up in the middle tens track segment. Now that we have a track selector, we need a way to control the exit gates so that the minute balls are released every 10 minutes, the tens balls are released every hour, and the hours balls are released every 12 hours. MotionGen came in clutch once again on this one, as I sketched out different ways to get this mechanism to work. Just FYI, MotionGen is actually a free tool, so if you want to mess around with it, it's super useful. I put a link in the description below. Check that out. What I ended up with was a system of cams and gears where the first cam rotates once every 10 minutes, the second one rotates once an hour, and the third one rotates once every 12 hours. The once an hour cam is connected to the track selector wheel through this shaft and bevel gear.
You can see that as the cam rotates, it pushes up on this lever. The lever then pulls back the exit gate, releasing the ball. At the top of the hour, you can see the sequence where the tens get released and then the minutes get released. Finally, I added a shaft and bevel gears to connect the lifting mechanism, which moves once a minute through a series of gears to the first cam. And then lastly, I added a motor to drive the entire thing. Of course, I didn't forget about this, but that was just a little bit of hot glue and an extension, and the problem was solved. So that means that all that's left to do is the peel and reveal. The time is now 7:46. Timekeepers work together hand in hand to place another ball at the top of the track once every 60 seconds. Fast forward a couple minutes and the time is now 7:49. The lowest exit gate gets opened and the minute balls travel back to the beginning to start their journey again. Just as the next ball is getting dropped on the track selector gate switches and the ball falls into the middle track. The time is now 7:50. Let's jump ahead to 7:59. Both the tens and the minute balls are released. And then the track selector flattens both selector gates and a ball goes and joins the hours balls on the top track. Let's fast forward once again. This time to 11:59. All three gates get opened and the entire clock face empties. Indicating that it's 12 o'clock. Man, oh man, did this project test me in every possible way, engineering, design, but it was so worth it because look at what we got in the end. I feel like I say this on every video, but this has been my biggest, most complicated project so far, and it's your support in watching these videos that allows me to push myself and do bigger and better things. So thank you so much for that. Thank you to Elegoo for sponsoring this video, and of course, so many ideas in the works, so I'll see you in the next one.